Hello, everyone, as you're joining us. So good to see you. My name is Michael. Thanks for making the time to join us this evening. I'm the events coordinator and publicist at Annie Bloom's Books. For those of you who aren't familiar with the store, we're located in Portland, Oregon, in the heart of Multnomah Village. Annie Bloom's has been around for 42 years now, and we are still going strong despite everything that's going on. Our store is open to in-store browsing. Masks still required, as in all indoor places in Oregon right now. We're open on weekdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and weekends from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm admitting people here as I talk. Good to see the room filling up. Our website is always open. You can shop 24 hours a day at annieblooms.com day and night, where you can buy the book that I'm going to put in the chat right now, which is a link to Warren's book. And any other book, of course, we'll gladly accept that purchase. We offer curbside pickup, in-store pickup, local delivery within 3 miles of the store, and a couple of different shipping options. Tonight, we are delighted to be hosting Warren Easley, author of the new book, No Witness. After the reading that Warren will be doing, we'll have a Q&A. So you can feel free to type questions into the chat, and I'd be happy to read those to Warren, or you can pop up on the screen during the Q&A and fire away with those questions. Let's admit some more people. Fill up this virtual room. So let me tell you about No Witness. Running a one-man law practice in the heart of Oregon's wine country, Cal Claxton hires a young, undocumented man as an assistant, hoping to give him an opportunity to create more stability for himself and his family. Timoteo Fuentes is a bright, hardworking student by day and Cal's legal clerk by night, juggling both roles with determination and grit. When one of Timoteo's family members is brutally murdered, the migrant community is reluctant to cooperate with the police investigation for fear of deportation. Devastated by the loss and nervous about engaging with the legal system, the family turns to Cal for help. With Timoteo protected as a dreamer from deportation, the two begin a dangerous investigation of ruthless people who leverage the fear of a vulnerable population for profit, and an assassin who is as cunning as he is deadly. Can Cal and Timoteo untangle the web of deceit, or will they become victims themselves? I'm going to admit another person here. And let me tell you about Warren. He is a former research scientist and international business executive. He lives in Oregon, where he writes fiction, tutors GED students, fly fishes, and skis. Wow. Easley is the author of the Cal Claxton Oregon Mysteries, of course. He received a K. Snow National Award for Fiction in 2012 and was named the Northwest Up-and-Coming Author in 2017, both honors bestowed by Willamette Writers. Please, everyone, welcome Warren Easley.
Thank you, Michael. Wow, what an introduction. Yeah, gee, it looks like I see a lot of familiar names, and I see some that I don't know, so it's great. Thank you all for coming. You know, we all have about 10 million things to do, so the fact that you took some time tonight to come and listen to me ramble on about my new book, I think that's just great. You know, this was going to be, I think, Michael, it was the first in-store presentation for you guys in quite a while.
That was the idea.
Yeah, and it was going to be mine too. And so, you know, here we are now. So I want to start off kind of in the spirit of laughing at adversity. And I went to the internet. I thought, damn, you know, I'll find some really funny jokes about the pandemic. Well, guess what? There aren't that many. You know, most of them are aimed at people that don't wear a mask or don't get vaccinated, and I didn't want to go negative. But I did find a couple that I liked, and believe me, I looked through an awful lot of them. So I'm going to read you a couple of jokes. Number one, and I love this one. It says, day 121 at home with the dog is looking. Oh, hang on. I need my glasses. Excuse me. I can't quite read that. Excuse me. Day 121 at home, and the dog is looking at me like, see, this is why I chew the furniture. Okay, I like that one. The second one, the quarantine really put a damper on humor. For months, nobody walked into a bar. I can imagine you guys just rolling around with laughter. And finally, and I only have 3 of them. This is it. We're going to have to retire the expression "avoid it like the plague," since it turns out humans don't do that. Okay. Now, before we get started, I do have a surprise. I have a surprise guest. He's going to make a cameo tonight. He's probably the most popular character in the books. So if you bear with me for a moment, I'm going to go get him. So just a second. There'll be a blank screen probably. Sorry, I probably violated all the protocol on live streaming, but I wanted you to meet Archie. Now, Archie is
So cute.
in a book. This guy is 8 months old. He pretty much runs the house now. I mean, it only took him 8 months to figure everything out, and he's totally spoiled. But in the books, the dog based on Archie was a tricolor like him. He's a tricolor mini Aussie. We had another tricolor. He was a full-sized Aussie named Buddy, and he's the prototype for the dog in the books. And Buddy had a huge personality, so writing Buddy in the books was really easy to do. And I can tell you that Archie has got an equally large personality. So I think going forward, I'm going to have plenty of inspiration for writing. So take a bow, Archie. This is your 5 minutes of fame. Okay. All right.
Thank you for that. That was great to meet him.
All right. So I guess we should get serious and talk about the book. I don't need these glasses. I think when I tried to think about what to say here, this book, there were 4 things that just kind of came together and collided. That really was the genesis of this particular book. The first thing was in 2018. I think a lot of people in Oregon are going to remember this, and probably in other places too. But our former president unleashed a really strong ice raids all over the country, and particularly in the Willamette Valley here. And the Willamette Valley, we have tremendous amount of agriculture, a tremendous amount of nursery, where we grow stock for nurseries for all over the world, basically. And of course, in the Northern Valley, the wine country. And so there were literally undocumented workers here that had been living here for 30 years, had kids that were born here, so they were American citizens that were getting deported, and people were terrified just to answer the door if they didn't know who was knocking. So I was looking at this, and I thought to myself, man, what if there was a crime? What if there was a murder in the migrant community? How would these people feel? They would not want to cooperate. And so, and the light bulb went on. Well, maybe Cal would. Maybe they'd ask Cal to get involved. So that was one thing that hang on. That was one thing that that hit me. The other thing, the second thing was that my editor at that time, Barbara Peters, I don't have her now. She's gone because she's sold the business. And it's owned by Source Books now. But Poison Pen, the publisher I did work for, is still the mystery imprint for Source Books. So Barbara said, Cal has had a lot of relationships with very strong women, but they never seem to go anywhere. So she said, why don't you think about maybe having a relationship that maybe has some legs? So I didn't commit to that, but I told her, I said, okay, Barbara, at that time, she was still my editor. I said, I'll think about that. And then the next book, I'll run that by Cal and see what happens, because, he doesn't, I never know what this guy's going to do. So that was the second thing. So the other, third thing was I got very interested in the dreamers. I mean, who isn't? These are the young kids that were brought over here by their undocumented parents at a very early age. And, so they basically have grown up in the United States, have English practically as their first language. They've gone to school here. So I thought, if I'm going to do a book like this, I want to have a dreamer in it, and I want to make the dreamer a major character. So that was the third one. And then finally, I thought in this book, I would like to explore the kind of the impact of a major tragedy on a family. And it's a tough thing, but I wanted to do that so that my book would have a lot of emotional impact. So those were the four things that came together. Now, once I had those four ideas, which kind of collided at more or less the same time, I simply start thinking about the characters that would be in the book, and I get some fairly good idea of what the characters are, and then I just start writing. And I don't outline, and so I just keep asking myself, okay, what would this group of characters do under these circumstances? And and it's the honest truth that sometimes I really don't know how it's going to end until pretty late in the book. So it's a mystery for me too. The other thing that I wanted to mention about this is the question of research. This is an area that I don't know much about. This is an area that is cross-cultural, so very, very sensitive. And so I really wanted to do the best job I could. Now, the first thing I always do is I read everything about ICE, which is Immigrant Control Enforcement, and the Dreamers and everything I get my hands on. And I did want to mention two books that really stood out. I'll just show. This one is called Dreamers, An Immigrant Generation's Fight for Their American Dream. And you can see all these sticky notes in here. That means that I thought there were relevant things in here I might could use in my book. But this is basically a profiles of dreamers out there. And these kids are amazing, and it'll break your heart. Some of them have been ripped out of college and deported back to Mexico. Really great citizens. These are kind of kids we want to have in our country. So at least in my opinion. So I really recommend this book. It's by Eileen Truax. And then I read the other one that really stood out was Coyotes by Ted Conover. Ted Conover, this guy's amazing. What a journalist. He basically disguises himself as an immigrant, goes to Mexico, and finally ingratiates himself with these guys that are going to come across to work in Arizona and California. And so he goes through the whole process, and he winds up living with them in Arizona and living with them in LA and making these crazy road trips with cars that barely run. And then he did this for, like, I think it was 2 years, and then he wrote a book about it. So that gave me a sense, if you, a sense of how that would work out if you had a coyote, because a coyote brings some of my characters across the boundary there between California and Mexico. Okay, so the final thing though, and really it was the amazing thing that happened. I was talking to my youngest daughter, Kate, who's also interested in creative writing. And I was telling her about this idea, and she said, "Oh, well, I went to school at University of Puget Sound with a dreamer. And oh, by the way, she's going to law school now." And I kind of went, "What?" And so I said, "You got to fix me up with her." So anyway, Mariana agreed to talk to me. So the first thing I did was I wrote out, I don't know, I think it was 5 pages of questions that I had, just things that I wondered about. And I said, "Well, just fill this thing out and then we'll talk about it." So, 30, 40 days later, she sent me back, this big, thick thing. She filled it all. She answered all my questions. And then we had a call for about, it must have lasted most of the afternoon, where we went through it. And then when I finished the final manuscript, I had her read it to make sure that I didn't really, screw up any cultural stuff. And I got high marks from her. So I'm very pleased about that. So yeah, the other thing that has been coming up with, and particularly with this story, that I wanted to touch on is, this is a hot button issue, and we have a hyper polarized world right now. So the question I'm getting, and I got it from an interviewer not that long ago, was, why do you want to risk that? And, in a sense, I had to think about that, because I just write what, I just start writing. I really hadn't thought about it, but when I did, I realized a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. Number one, Hemingway said, "Write what you know." And for me, it's write what you're interested in. And I'm interested in hot button social issues and social issues in general. They interest me. And I'm interested in them in the sense of, as a mystery writer, I'm also as a citizen, but as a mystery writer, how they lead to crime. And so that was one thing. Now, it made a lot of sense to me, because these hot button issues, what all social issues are fraught with human conflict, right? I mean, by their very nature. And of course, human conflict is what drives mystery novels. And so, there was that reason as well. But then the one that's really important to me is that I didn't want, in this series, I didn't want to just write books that are you take to the beach. They're a quick read and kind of escapist literature. I didn't want to do that. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with escapist literature, and my books are, they're basically, first and foremost, they're mysteries. I'm not preaching anything, but I wanted, in my book, I wanted to have them stand for a little bit something more. I wanted them to actually speak, if possible, and I can't always do this, but if possible, I wanted to speak to our common humanity. And so I wanted, the social issues that provide kind of a narrative spine that I can lay the story out on. I wanted them to raise the book a little bit. So that's kind of the way I did that, the way I look at it, when I finally was forced to really think about it. And in that regard, I have a quote here I wanted to read to you. It's kind of my inspiration in this regard. And this is by a woman named Marion Dane Bauer. Some of you may know her. She writes kids' books, but they're really good kids' books. And she said this about the power of fiction. The power of fiction is that it gives us, as readers, the opportunity to move inside another human being, to look out through that person's eyes, hear with her ears, think with his thoughts, feel with her feelings. It is the only form of art which can accomplish this feat so deeply and so completely. So I kind of, I put this on under my pillow at night, but not really. But that's kind of one of my inspirations. Okay, so I think we've done it. Let me see. Let me check, see if I left anything out. No. Let me go to the book. I'm going to read a little bit, if you'll allow me. 3 really brief passages, and but I want to start with the epigraph in this book. You know, the epigraphs, there's those little 1 or 2 liners in the front of a book that kind of give a hint to what the author might, what the theme of the book might be. And I put these 2 in for this book. And let me just read them. The first is from one of our presidents. It said, "I have always found that mercy bears richer fruits than strict justice." And that was Abraham Lincoln. And, you know, in this book, the question of the rule of law versus compassion, it comes up a lot. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the answer is there. You're going to have to read it, and hopefully it'll make you think a little bit about a very deep question. But the characters in there are struggling with this issue. The second one is one that I just is amazing, by Max Frisch. Max Frisch is he's actually a Swiss playwright. But here it is. He said, "We asked for workers, we got people instead." So I'll just leave it at that. Let that one soak in. Okay, so I'm going to read a couple of very brief passages here. The first one, Cal is down in his one-man law office in Dundee. It's a little, village in the heart of the wine country, just about 25 miles straight south from Portland. And a young man enters looking for a job. And so we'll just pick it up. There's more here, but we'll pick it up. And Cal says, "What kind of help?" And the kid says, "An office manager or something like that. I'd be glad to fill out an application." "An application?" I had to chuckle. "This is a one-man operation." I motioned toward a chair facing my desk. "Have a seat." A few inches shorter than me, he had a crop of wavy black hair, neatly faded on the sides, dark eyebrows arched over luminous brown eyes, and a squared off, slightly dimpled chin. He sat down as a look of disappointment spread across his face. "What made you think of this particular law office?" His face became animated and he squared his shoulders. "I read about the case you handled for that kid from Coos Bay, Kenny Sanders. I admire what you did, Mr. Claxton." That was book 7. He was referring to an effort that resulted in the exoneration of a young man serving a life term for a murder he didn't commit. "It's Cal, thanks," I said. We caught a couple of breaks on that case for sure, and I had a lot of help." Timoteo leaned forward in his chair, his hands planted firmly on his knees. "I want to be a lawyer, Mr. Claxton. I want to do work like that, to defend people and help change the criminal justice system for the better." I always choke up a little bit here. The words may have had a ring of naivete, but his jaw was set and his voice was firm. I smiled again, out of surprise this time. "Change the system from the inside, huh?" "Yes, that's where I want to start." He allowed a modest smile. "Maybe politics down the road." I chuckled. "Well, that's a well-worn path. Are you going to school?" "I'm trying to finish up at Chemeketa in McMinnville. I want to get an associate degree and transfer to the University of Oregon next year, poli-sci, then law school." How are your grades?" "Mostly A's so far. High school too." "Good work. Sounds like an excellent plan." "I need to save for tuition. He leveled his eyes at me. I'm tired of flipping burgers. I want to get some experience in the field that I plan to work in. I leaned back in my chair and glanced at the ugly stacks of unfiled papers, but thoughts of offloading such tasks were quickly intercepted by the practical voice residing in the corner of my brain. Help around the office would be nice, it said, but this kid has zero experience. And besides, the voice went on, after paying your bills, there usually isn't much money left over. The truth was, however, I hardly ever listened to that voice, and damn it, I liked the kid chutzpah. If I had any work, and I'm not saying I do, it wouldn't be glamorous, like what you see on TV. Most lawyering is tedious, detailed work. The law is a thing of beauty, but she's also a complex bitch. I stopped there to gauge his reaction. His eyes lit up. I don't care. I want to learn the job from the bottom up, Mr. Clax or Cal. We'll stop there. Okay, that's Tim Mateo. Oh, and I forgot. Wait a minute. I forgot. He gives Cal a card at the end. All right. And the card says, Timoteo Fuentes, dreamer and DACA recipient, college student and future lawyer, and it gives his phone number. Okay. So now the second thing I'm going to read, this is actually the same day. Cal is back home and he's chopping wood for Gertrude Johnson. Now, Gertie is she's his bookkeeper and his accountant. She does his taxes for him. And she's also a confidant. And she's always worried about the fact that Cal's nearly always broke. And so she kind of watches the budget. So Cal has just told her about Timoteo. And so this is where this conversation takes off. And by the way, he's chopping wood for her. And she says, if you keep the kids' hours below, say, 20 a week, he should be okay. She laughed. If you can train him to keep better track of your billable hours, he'll pay for himself. Creative minds like mine balk at scut work, Bertie, I said, suppressing a smile as I put my back into a swing that halved another round. She rolled her eyes dramatically. Right. Trouble is, scut work puts cash in the till. I heated up another chunk of cedar. Okay, point taken. He seems to be a smart kid. He's a dreamer. Gertie looked at me. They're all dreamers at that age. No, I mean, he's undocumented, but he grew up here in the States. Oh, of course. Those kids, my God. How could you deport people who spent their whole lives here, no matter how they got here? That's just flat out wrong. Gertie never has a problem with her convictions. He gave me a card with a cell phone number on it, said he was a DACA recipient too. Whack. I split another cedar around. Gertie furrowed her brow. I don't know what DACA stands for, but I do know it was something that Obama did to protect those kids, right? That's right. It stands for Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals. In other words, we'll defer decisions on deporting dreamers until we can get a final resolution in Congress. Gertie made a sour face. I thought our current president killed that program. No mercy for the unintended lawbreakers. He tried about 2 years ago, and it's being fought in the courts now. It'll wind up in the Supreme Court, and it will, by the way. Well, this whole damn immigration mess needs fixing. She swept a hand toward the rolling landscape, pulling away at the south of us, and shook her head. Without immigrant labor, the wine industry wouldn't exist here, or it would be just a rich man's hobby producing a trickle of wine. And you can bet a high percentage of those workers are undocumented. I agreed, and at the same time felt an unexpected twinge of guilt. She was right. The explosive growth of vineyards in the Red Hills had been driven by immigrant workforce, men and women willing to do backbreaking labor, work that most Americans shun. They worked in the vineyards surrounding me and then receded in a world I knew very little about and had very little appreciation for. That seemed wrong somehow, even shameful. Okay, so now I mentioned the, my editor wanting me to maybe have Cal have a romance with some legs. And so I'm gonna introduce a new character. And what happens here at this point, just to set it up, Gertie has had a health issue, and her niece, who's a PhD psychologist and a professor at University of Puget Sound, but she's on sabbatical while she's writing a book. She comes to Oregon to take care of Gertie for a while. And of course, Gertie lives just north of Cal on a 5-acre spread. Just, they adjoin, their two properties adjoin. So Gertie has asked Zoe to cook her some salmon on a cedar plank. And so she runs down to Cal to see, how do I do that? And so they're talking about this. This is where this starts. And he's explained some of it. And Zoe waited. And when I didn't continue, looked incredulous. That's it? I drank some beer and chuckled. Cook it slowly. At medium heat, the plank should begin to char at about the time the fish is done. The fish is cooked when the little white globules of fat begin percolating on the surface. The thin end of the fillet will cook faster, so cut through it and take the salmon off a section at a time. That way, it'll be evenly cooked. Zoe showed a look of almost childlike enthusiasm. I think I can do that. What's the plank for anyway? Flavor and moisture. It adds both. The Columbia River tribes cook their salmon that way. They should know, she said, and sipped some beer as the breeze ruffled her hair. She studied me for a moment and her look grew softer. How are you coping? I took a pull on my beer. Better. I decided to get involved after talking to Timoteo and his father this morning. That seemed to help, Doing rather than stewing? Yeah, something like that. I'm curious, what convinced you to get involved? The local police are in a weak position. I don't say they're going to get stonewalled, but they're sure as hell not going to get the full cooperation of the migrant community here. I'm thinking I can use Carlos and Timoteo to run interference for me. Maybe I can fill in some blanks, help find the bastard who did this. That's noble, she said with no hint of sarcasm. But it sounds tricky. I mean, you'll be working kind of a shadow case and with people who are in this country illegally. Yeah, I'll be walking a high wire between client confidentiality and the need to turn evidence over to the investigating team. The family isn't under suspicion, so that makes it easier. Did you learn anything this morning? I took another drink of beer and regarded her for a moment. She sat erect, her slender neck thrust forward and her facial features drawn up in rapt attention. She had Gertie's forthright manner, and I sensed her curiosity sprang purely from a desire to help, or at least to understand. I did, I answered, but there are confidentiality issues. Of course, she said. I'm curious about how you go about something like this, and maybe I can help in some way, from a psychological point of view. She showed a smile, but it was clear her offer was serious. So could be something going on there. All right, I'm going to stop there. And this is the part that I enjoy the most. I don't enjoy lecturing very much, but I love the Q&A part when I get to talk about, writing in a more, in a less rehearsed way. So yeah, let's go, Michael. See if
All
we
right,
have
well, there's one question. I think everyone is more obsessed with the food than the mystery.
Yeah.
Barbara said, Warren, is cooking one of your hobbies?
It is not. So yeah, full disclosure here. My wife, Marge, is a wonderful cook. And so there's no reason for me to cook. Okay, I do a little barbecuing. So when I need, when Cal's cooking something and I need a recipe, they come from Marge.
You had me fully believing that you could cook up a delicious salmon there on a cedar plank.
Okay, I know how to do that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know then, really.
Yeah, there you go.
Folks have other questions they want to type in, or feel free to unmute yourself and pop up on the screen and fire away. Here we go.
Hi, Janice.
Oh, hi. I can't see me, but anyway. So my question, how do you manage to keep up your motivation to write during all this coronavirus stuff? What gets you going in the morning?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. I have to say, in all honesty, that I think my productivity has taken a dip. It just seems to, or at least over the last year, not so much now. I feel like I'm kind of coming out of it, but I'm working on book 9. I do have 240 pages done, about 70,000 words. So I'm gonna kill this sucker in about 2 months, I hope, or maybe a month and a half. But yeah, it's been rough, Janice. Just a lot of distractions, and even though I have all the time in the world, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah, it is.
We have some more questions in the chat. Thank you, Janice. That was good. Let's see. We've got Dee Dee Montgomery, another author. Thanks, Warren. Did Kate give any developmental edits or insights into this book?
Yeah, Kate read an early, actually, she read just an early, maybe 10 or 12 chapters. And then she's off doing her own thing. She's in grad school now, getting an MFA in creative writing. So right. Yeah, but she in all my other books, she has read them completely. I get input from her, and then of course, Marge is my first reader, and she before anything goes out of here to my editor at Poison Pen, Marge has blessed it.
All right, thanks, Dee Dee. Jennifer Willis asks, Warren, how many volumes do you envision for the series? Do you have any non-Claxton books in the works?
Yeah, good questions. I don't know. I take the books one at a time. I'd like to have at least 10. You know, when I started out, you know, Michael Connelly, he had 20 at one time. He's past that now, but he's got an awful lot of the Bosch series, which I really admire. So I'd like to do something like Connelly, but the trouble is age is catching up with me. We'll see how it goes. As far as standalones, if I get an idea, I'd love it. But right now I'm still, as long as the ideas on Cal come, I think I'll keep writing the Cal books. As long as I have what I think are really quality ideas and I can get excited about writing them. But if not, standalone would be fun, and I hope I get to do that one of these days. Cool. Thanks, Jennifer.
Stephanie Thompson asks, do you lay out the plot by chapter or some other way?
Yeah, good question. The answer is no. I do not. I don't outline, and I mean it. I do not outline. As I said, I start with the premise, and I had in this case kind of 4 elements that I knew I was going to deal with, and then I start to think about the characters. Given those 4 elements, what characters would I need to get this plot going? And once I get a sense of the characters, then I start writing, and that's usually fairly quickly. And as I go through the book, I get to know the characters better and better. And so sometimes I have to go back and change something because I said, I understand what that person would have done, and it isn't what I had written previously. So yeah, they're very character driven.
Thanks, Warren.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie.
That's fascinating for a mystery, especially. I would think that it's typically plot driven.
I don't recommend it. And my Barbara Peters, my editor for years, she's always trying to get me to outline. And I bought a bunch of books on how to outline your novel, read them all, tried to do it, and just finally said, "Oh, the hell with it."
Hey, whatever works for you.
Yep, didn't work.
Rebecca Gladstone just has a statement. She's left now. Thank you for the discussion. Looking forward to the book. Nice to meet Archie, and she wants you to join us tomorrow for redistricting hearings.
Yeah, okay.
Jennifer Easley asks, how did you accomplish the Spanish dialogue?
First of all, I used very little, just a few things because I didn't want to get too deep into that. And then I have a son-in-law who's Spanish and from Spain. And, but of course, the Spanish spoken in Spain is not the Spanish spoken in Mexico. So there's always in Cuba with Nando and all those issues. But yeah, I usually have to work on that a little bit to make sure I get it right. But I don't have a lot, just a few words here and there.
Did I say Jeffrey Easley? I meant to say Jeffrey Easley if I didn't. So
Yeah.
That was his question. Sorry. Sarah Perez, how did you come up with your ICE officer character?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So yeah, there is I'll let you read the book, but yeah, there's a guy that's basically turns out that, and this kind of way it happens, this building kind of appeared not that far away from where, between Dundee and Newburgh, I guess, in that area. And it was kind of unmarked building, had a flag on it, but unmarked building. Turned out that was an ICE detention center. And these things spring up like that. They don't advertise them. Now, that didn't really happen, but in the book it does. And the guy that's running the detention center is interesting character. You'll have to read about him to I'm not going to spoil it here.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, he popped into my head. That's how I came up with it.
Good reason. Leanne McLennan, do you have a favorite of your Cal Claxton books?
Oh, yeah, that's like, if you had all your kids around and you said the one was a favorite.
Sophie's choice moment.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to say that if you really press me to the wall, it's Matters of Doubt, the first book. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, which I usually do, leave a chunk of the talk out. The source book has, they're decided to republish the entire series with, with new covers and so forth. And so Matters of Doubt, the first book in the series, came out last May. And it's got a, if you buy that book, you might have the other one, but this book has an overview of the entire series that they had me write in the front. And it has kind of an author interview in the back. It has 2 chapters of Dead Float, which is book number 2. And it has a bunch of book club questions. So, it's got a great cover. So a great cover and all kinds of bells and whistles. So we'll see if they all get republished, but that's the plan right now.
Oh, very cool. That's nice. And before I forget, Warren is going to come in and sign books tomorrow. So when you purchase your books through annieblooms.com, you can leave a comment if saying that you would like it signed or personalized. I assume you'll be okay with personalizing to someone if they have a request.
Sure,
Warren?
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, so feel free to leave those in your comments. We have more questions. Let's see. And statements. Mary Jane says, we love the Cal and Archie books. We love how you showcase the Dundee and Willamette Valley areas. Alyssa.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Sorry.
Was that all?
That was her thing. Yeah, she didn't have a question for you. Alyssa Willis has a question. You've done such a good job of highlighting the charms of Oregon. Do you have favorite parts or spots?
Yeah, I do. It's the coast, but I love the whole state, but with a passion. But the coast is really, Marge and I spent a lot of time down on the beach walking, and the little guy, Archie, that you met, the beach was made for him. So yeah, I do love the coast the most, but I love the mountains too, and the high desert. Wow.
All right. Let's see, more statements and questions. Oops, let me go back up here. Krista Guerrero says, can't wait to read the book. Liz Gibney says, my husband and I both enjoy your books and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Janice is going to get her book personalized. Great, cool. Oh, and Krista is ordering my book now to have it signed and personalized. Yay, that's good to see.
Thank
Cool.
you, Krista.
These are all very good statements. Thank you for saying that. And does anyone have any other questions for Warren before they go off and buy all their books from Annie Blooms? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to toss that link in there again to make it a little bit easier in case we've lost it now back in all these comments and questions. So there you go. That's just click on that. And the book purchase link is there on the event page. What else do folks want to know about Warren or his new book or all the books? We might have a satisfied audience here.
Okay. That's great.
They're busy ordering books. Thanks, Leanne.
Yeah. Terrific. Yes. Support your independent bookshop.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks, Janice. Welcome. All right, well, if no one else has any questions, yeah, Liz Gibney wants to see one about in the high desert. So you've got a setting for your next one, Warren.
I'm good. Yeah.
If we have no other further questions, then we can call it a night. I'm recording this and we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel, hopefully later tonight or tomorrow. So you can pass that along to friends who aren't able to make it tonight. You can watch it again, whatever you like. And thank you all so much for taking the time to come out tonight. As Warren said earlier, there's always a lot of stuff going on. So thanks for making the time.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.